Hello, I'm State Representative Jim Buchy from the 84th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Brad Miller. Today I'm talking with State Representative Jim Buchy, who serves the 84th House District, which includes all of Mercer County and parts of Auglaize, Darke, and Shelby counties. Representative, great to see you again.
It's nice to be back, Brad. I always look forward to this.
So the House of Representatives recently passed the budget bill, House Bill 59. It's currently in the Senate. We're going to talk about a few items in the budget, starting with education and school funding in particular.
Sure.
What were some of the changes that the House made to the bill as opposed to what the governor first proposed?
On the education funding,
right,
or overall? Okay, as far as the education funding is concerned, the formula was kind of redrafted with some significant changes that would benefit the schools in the 84th House District. The originally introduced version of the bill was not as kind as it could have been and should have been to the best producing schools in Ohio. So the legislature and the Finance Committee in its wisdom sought and successfully revamped the formula so that the high-performing schools are compensated accordingly.
Can you talk a little bit about the role the schools played, the communication you had with the districts in the 84th House District?
Well, of course, we constantly communicate with schools. We meet, when I say we, I'm talking about senators who are represent the district, Senator Faber, Senator Height, Representative Berkeley, Representative John Adams. We all have representation in Auglaize, Mercer, and Shelby counties, and on a quarterly basis we meet to have feedback from the superintendents and the treasurers about how things are going in education in those three counties. And then we also have regular meetings with the superintendents and treasurers of Darke, Miami, and Preble counties for the same purpose. And so from those meetings we get feedback that are helpful to us here as we develop not only the budget, but policy as well as it relates to education.
I understand there's an issue that has received some attention, probably not just in Ohio, but the Common Core state standards for education. Have you had a chance to look at that issue, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's some opportunities with the Common Core as it relates to education, and there was some language in House Bill 59 that was basically set aside, sent back to the Education Committee so that they could review it further to see how we can make that situation fit our program in Ohio and make it better.
Staying on the general topic of education, but sort of changing the focus a little bit, I understand you've been working with legislators mostly from urban districts to extend VOAG and 4-H programs in some of those school districts. Can you tell us how that process has been going?
Well, we're very pleased at how that's unfolding, because I've learned in the last year and a half, 2 years, that urban schools do not have any kind of strong program in the classroom or outside of the classroom as it relates to vocational agriculture education, FFA, and 4-H. And so in working with Dr. Keith Smith from OSU Extension and Dr. Stephen Gratz who heads up vocational agriculture in the Department of Education, and working with key legislators in Cleveland and Cincinnati, specifically Representative Sandra Williams in Cleveland and Representative Dale Mowry in Cincinnati, we've been able to come up with legislation or an amendment in the budget that hopefully is going to, starting this fall, see in one high school in Cleveland and one in Cincinnati, a vocational agriculture FFA program in one school each, and then in elementary school, cooperative extension has curriculum cooperative extension 4-H in the classroom, and so that would be from K through 6. grades. And then in each one of those schools, we're going to start one 4-H club with volunteer adults so that after school there is the opportunity to participate in 4-H projects. And we're just kind of excited that this is a pilot project. The school officials in Cleveland and Cincinnati are very excited about this, and hopefully getting a successful program like this started in both those cities will ultimately end up with strong vocational agriculture and 4-H that in the future will provide a lot of jobs in agriculture. Currently there are 1,700 food processors in Ohio. Many of them are in Cuyahoga and Hamilton counties, and so this is going to give those schools an option to develop qualified people from the schools who can work in food processing, and the program is food science. There's just all kinds of opportunities coming.
That was going to be my next question. You represent a very rural district and have a long agricultural background. I was going to ask why you think this is so important, but you touched on it. It's really about jobs.
It's really about growing the economy and providing the students in cities options for future employment that they currently don't have.
Moving on to another item in the budget, probably the issue that has received the most attention in the news was certainly Medicaid. The House proposal, the bill passed by the House, did not include the expansion of Medicaid, which Governor Kasich had initially put in the budget. Can you just talk about some of the factors that went into that decision?
Well, of course, we always want to remember 3 words: follow the money. And we're talking about a huge program. Currently, the budget today that we're operating under, that ends June the 30th, has $26 billion in it for Medicaid, and that's 40% of the general revenue. It's 2% more than in primary and secondary education get. So it's a huge program, and it's grown quite substantially. In 1983, my first year here, in that first biennium budget, the money allotted for Medicaid was $3 billion. So you can see, Brad, there's been quite a huge growth in that. So that when we took a budget that had a potential of an additional $13 billion from Washington going into Medicaid over a period of time, that is very huge and very important as we work through the budgetary process. And so the folks on the Finance Committee and leadership in the caucus, our caucus, indicated that we need to really review this further and not make quick decisions that are going to not be positive down the road. So we have set aside that initial proposal for further consideration and have put instructions in the budget that we're going to study that a lot further and hopefully come back in the fall with a long-term proposal that'll be the most efficient for the taxpayers of Ohio.
And the Ohio Senate has since announced that it also will not include the Medicaid expansion, but it's certainly an issue that will continue to be addressed down the road.
Well, yes, because you see, a lot of us feel that this is a golden opportunity to really put some positive effort into a restructuring of Medicaid to help a portion of those being serviced by Medicaid for their health issues to have incentives to lift themselves out of that situation and become productive members in the workforce. Here we go. Let's create more jobs and let's get more people in the workforce. And we feel that we can do some things with the approval and support from Washington to initiate some action to get us to where we can get more people in the workforce.
Moving from an issue that encapsulates the whole state to one specifically pertaining to your district, with the Lake Facilities Authority and Grand Lake St. Mary's. Can you talk about, sort of briefly summarize some of the things that have been going on with that?
Well, of course, Grand Lake St. Mary's is the largest inland lake in Ohio, Brad. It's 13,500 acres. It's 120, 140 years old, maybe 150. I don't know, time flies fast. It was a hand-dug lake. It's a handmade lake, and so over the years, because of the dominance of many factors, the 84th district is the biggest agricultural food producing district in Ohio, and so and with a combination of runoff that has loaded a lot of phosphorus into Grand Lake St. Mary's, it has created an algae situation over the years, and couple that with septic tanks of residences and wastewater treatment of municipalities, and so we have some issues as far as water quality, and so we're a kind of a frontal assault right now, where the farmers in the district are have introduced and inculcated in their business management water quality programs and best management practices. The idea is to reduce nutrients going into the lake through land runoff and tributaries and so on. And then on the municipal side and so on, there's been more work done to have more wastewater treatment that does not utilize the lake as much. So that's the background of how we have the water quality issues in the lake. It's been over 100 years in the making, and so we're in the process of developing a long-range restoration plan to make that lake better, so that we have good tourism, industry flourishing, and still have a growing agriculture community and more residents and so on. So what we're doing here, and we were able to have an amendment accepted in the budget that will help, that will set up what's known as the Lake Facilities Authority in the watershed. And the watershed basically is Mercer and Auglaize counties. And there is a group of people over there who want to step up and set in place a funding mechanism that is focused solely on the restoration of the lake. So that's what that's all about, and I'm really quite excited, enthused that the citizens of the watershed are really wanting to be a big part of the restoration of the lake.
So all this deals with the legislative process. You recently wrote a column talking about the budget in particular, but sort of the legislative process. So you said, in the legislature, it is our job to scrutinize bills and make considerations on the impact they will have on the lives of Ohioans. Can you talk about the importance of having all those different layers go into this and all the different voices and minds working towards these goals?
Sure. My dad taught me when I was a kid, you never learn anything with an open mouth. So I've tried to, in my public service career, listen to the people that I work for, and consequently we have set up a very good line of communication with the residents of the 84th House District, so that and I'm very active physically and publicly in the district. I like to go to many events and so on, so I can meet people to listen what's on their mind as to how they can help me work better for my constituents here in Columbus. So that when I learn from them, it helps me make the decisions that are going to make Ohio better. And obviously the big thing is, how do we make the economy better, and what do we do to grow the economy? And certainly the people in the 84th House District, they're pretty good at it. You know, Mercer County every month has the lowest unemployment rate of any county in Ohio. Currently it's 4.6%. If in the aggregate, the district is probably in the 5.5% range. So that we have hardworking families. And by the way, it's no coincidence that we have the lowest unemployment rate over there, and we produce the most food. It's the biggest agriculture area. Well, there are subsidiary companies over there and businesses where our families who are hardworking, they work in the companies and they raise the food. So I like to listen. They're successful. They're smart, and we have the best schools, and so it's really very important that I stay tuned with the people I work for. And so I take what I learn from them and then try to inculcate that in the legislative process here in Columbus.
Because they certainly have a lot of good ideas.
They do.
So you touched about the importance of contacting your district and your constituents getting a hold of you. What are some easy ways for them to do that?
Well, of course, we communicate regularly. We send out columns on a regular basis to newspapers, have regular State House reports that are played on radio stations back in the district. We're on Facebook, we Twitter, we email. We have a huge several thousand email list. I go, whenever I'm at events, I'm asking people, how can you help me? We do surveys all the time. in which we're asking people to answer questions on issues that we're dealing with here. Every year at the 4 fairs that are in the district, I'm there every day passing out questionnaires so that we get feedback. And we're accessible by telephone. We have appointments with people. The more I meet the constituents and listen and learn what's on their minds, the better I can represent them here in Columbus.
Representative, it's always great talking to you. Hope to do it again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thank you for joining us.